Hello, for this help video I'm going to be doing some of the example problems for solving equations. That's Unit 2, Lesson 4. So go ahead and click on that and open up the notes. And I'm going to go ahead and download these again just so I can take my notes directly into the problem. You can print them as well if you like to handwrite on those. Alright, so the notes, it's going to have the skills, what you should know how to do, be able to check off. Yes, I can solve multi-step equations. Yes, I can write and use equations. I use questions to solve problems, rewriting and solving literal equations. You have your vocab here, and then some basic definitions and rules, and then there's example problems. So for each example problems, they show you how to solve them. So you can work through those, and then there's a couple for you to try as well. I'm going to skip to the end and show you some examples for these that don't have the steps for you. All right, so here when it says to solve the equation, okay, to solve, right, you solve a mystery. So what we're doing when they're asking you to solve, we want to solve for the variable. So for number 1, it says W minus 15 equals 8.2. The mystery here is, well, what is W equal to? So that's what I'm trying to solve. When you are a detective, you're trying to solve a crime, what do? They work backwards, right? You try to work backwards to see what happens. So if I look at this first question, W minus 15 equals 8.2. Well, again, the mystery here is, well, what is W? Well, what happened to W? It had 15 taken away from it, and then that equaled to 8.2. So I want to work backwards and undo that. So how do we undo the negative of taking away 15? What's the opposite of subtracting? And that would be adding. So I'm going to add 15. But in order for this to stay equal, you have to do it to both sides. So I have W, negative 15 plus 15, and you can use the calculator to verify and check your work all the time. That gives me 0. And something plus 0 is just that something. W plus 0 is just going to be 0. So this cancels. And then I have 8.2 plus 15. Okay, so that W equals 23.2. Okay, and you can remember the equations read both ways. I have some number minus 15 equals 8.2. So I get that number is 23.2. You can check your work. Okay, so now I know that W is 23.2 by minus 15. You should get 8.2 again. So I have solved for W. Now I know what W is equal to. Okay, let's try another one. Solving for this one, what do I need to solve? Well, my variable, the unknown here, is x. So I want to work backwards and find out what was x. So what's happening to the x in this situation? Well, it's being divided by 3. How do I work backwards and undo that? What's going to undo division? It's multiplication. So instead of dividing by 3, I'm going to multiply by 3. But again, to maintain, to make sure this stays equal, you have to do that on both sides. So that's going to give me 3 divided by 3 is just 1. So that cancels. I have 1x. And technically you could put the 1 there, but we don't show that. We know it's there, kind of assume it's there. But I have 1x here, and then negative 30 times 3. Negative 90. So our x is equal to negative 90, and you can substitute that back in and confirm that yes, that works out. That value is what makes this equation true. Let's try another one. Two y minus 1 equals y plus 11. So here I'm trying to solve for y. That's still the case. Right? But here I have some like terms that I can simplify and combine before I start solving. So we have our equal sign, two separate sides. I have a y here, two y's here, and a y here. I want to get them together. If you're moving something across the wall in these equations, right, here's our equal sign. I can't just move the y here. Okay, so let's say, oh, I want to move the y over here, and you just added y equals 11. If you plug in a value, you're going to see that those are not equal. What you need to do in order to move something from one side to another, I need to undo it here. So this y is positive, it's plus 1y. What is the opposite of that? Minus 1y. And I can do that. If I do that on both sides, it's still equal. So what's 2y minus 1y? I get 1y minus 1 equals 11. The rest, the other terms, I just bring them down. And then I have y minus 1 equals 11. Let's change the color. Okay, so I want to figure out what is y, what's happening to it. It's having 1 taken away. So I undo that by adding 1. Negative 1 plus 1 gives me 0. So I get y equals 11 plus 1 is 12. Okay, and you can check that. 2y, so I know y is 12 now, minus 1 equals, and I have 1y here, so 12 plus 11. So we have 2 times 12 minus 1. It's 23 on this side, and then on the other side I have 12 plus 11, 23. Okay. I'm going to do one more, and this one comes from a student webmail. All right, 6 times n minus 4 equals 3n. So for this one, again, just like number 3, I have n on both sides. I want to get those together. The problem with this is that this n is trapped inside those parentheses. So how do I undo those parentheses? Well, why are they there? These parentheses are here to show you that this 6 is being multiplied by all of this. Okay, not just the n. So let's say you wrote it without the parentheses. What would that mean? That would mean 6 times n, then minus 4, that equals 3n. This, with the parentheses, means 6 times all of this. So that's the purpose the parentheses are serving right now. They're showing us you need to do 6 times n and 6 times negative 4. So I can get rid of the parentheses by simply multiplying that out. 6 times n is 6n, and 6 times negative 4, 6 times negative 4, equals 3n. All right, I still want to get those like terms together. So I want to put the 6 and the 6n and the 3n together, but they're on separate sides of the equation. I can solve that by moving one of them. Now, I could move the 3n over here So you can do it that way. This is a positive 3n. So I'll do the opposite of that, minus. 6 minus 3 is 3n, minus 24, and then 3n minus 3n is 0. Okay, so you have to put the 0 there. Then I want to get the n by itself. What's happening to it? It's being multiplied by 3 and subtracted by 24. So I want to keep undoing things. When we're undoing stuff, usually, you want to make sure you work from the outside in. Okay, so I'm going to undo what's farthest away first. So undo the minus 24 before you undo the times 3. Another way to think of it is your order of operations, right? So when you're evaluating, normally we do parentheses first, right? When we're simplifying, then exponents, then multiplication, division, then addition and subtraction. So when you're evaluating, you do multiplication, division before addition, subtraction. But here we're trying to solve, remember I'm going backwards, so I want to undo the addition and subtraction before I undo the multiplication, division. So this is n minus 24. I'm going to add 24. This is going to be 0. And 0 plus 24 is 24. Now what's left? The n right here is being multiplied by 3. Undo that. I divide by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. So I have 1n. And 24 divided by 3, get 8. So n equals 8. Again, remember there's more than one way to do a problem as well. Some students, you might have said, oh, well, I want to have the numbers over here and the variables on this side. So instead of moving the 3n to this side, we could have moved the 6n over here. So this would be 0. Negative 24 equals 3 minus 6. Okay, feel free to use the calculator as much as you need to make sure you're not making mistakes there. Negative 24 equals negative 3n. This n is being multiplied by a negative 3. Okay, I know it's not minus. There's nothing here to subtract it from. So I know it can be kind of confusing. When is this symbol subtraction? When is it a negative? In this case, it's n times a negative 3. So we're going to undo that by dividing by a negative 3. Anything divided by itself is just 1. And negative 24 divided by negative 3. Okay, so your steps might have been different, but remember, ultimately, get the same answer. 8 equals n. Okay? For these, number 4, 5, and 6, you do see this. This question is going to show up on your quiz. Solve each equation for k. So for these, notice I only was solving for one variable at a time. You can do that with one equation. In these, we have two variables. So when they say to solve each equation for k, what they're really asking you to manipulate or change the expression. So it's solved for that variable. What does that mean? They want to get whatever variable they're asking by itself. So let's look. R minus 2k equals 15. And they want me to solve for k. So instead of this saying r minus 2k equals 15, I want it to say k equals something. I want the k to be all by itself. So I want to undo everything that's happening to it. So what's happening to the k? It's being multiplied by a negative 2, and then they take that number away from r. So I want to move things around so that k is just by itself. So this is plus r here. I want to move it to the other side by doing the opposite. I'm going to subtract. So I have 15 minus r. And then the k is being multiplied by negative 2. I undo that. by dividing by -2. So this, anything divided by itself is 1. So you have k equals 15 minus r, all divided by -2. And now this is solved for k. The k is by itself. Let's try another one. 6k minus 2z equals 12. Okay, I want to solve for k. I want to get the k by itself. What's happening to it? It's being multiplied by 6 and then minus 2z. So we're going to undo. Remember, we're going to undo what's farthest first. So work outside in. Plus 2z. Plus 2z. So this is 0. So these are not like terms. This is a 12. That's a constant. And this is 2z that has a variable. So to get a review for like terms, go back to lesson 2 in this unit. If they're not like terms, you just leave them separated. And then this is k times 6, so I'm going to undo it. Divide by 6, you have to divide everything by 6, or not being equal here. Okay, and this one you can actually simplify it even further. 12 divided by 6 is 2. And 2 divided by 6 is 1/3. Okay. You'll get more practice with those when we get to factoring. And then let's do the last one. Okay, I want to solve this one for k, but this one, we have 4k and a -2k on this side. So let's get them together. I want to move this to the other side of the equation, again, by doing the opposite. Instead of subtracting, I add. This is 0. So it's just left with a -14. Bring that down. This is k times 6 plus h. So k times 6 plus h, we're going backwards, so get rid of the h and then get rid of the 6. Instead of adding, I subtract. This is 0. Bring this down. 6k equals -14 minus h. K times 6, to undo that, I divide by 6. So we get k equals -14 minus h divided by 6. Okay. If you feel like you need more practice, you can follow along, look at those example problems, and try those as well until you're confident that you can do these skills here.